Hey, Leslie.
So this was going to be a much more I don't know, professionally produced podcast. We're working on it. We have solved, Leslie sounds like she's speaking from the bottom of a barrel problem. My sound is mellifluous, is it not?
I don't know if I would go that far, but it is definitely better. It
Improved.
is mayor in your second language.
Mejor, mejor.
Oh, I'm sorry, mejor.
So this is the Garden Mixer with Marianne Wilburn and Leslie Harris. And what I think we should probably do is do this little audio file that we just stick in and say, oh yeah, Marianne's an author and she writes for Garden Rand and she does this and that. And Leslie's kind of a loser who's trying to take up golf, but she knows something about gardening. And we're sponsored by nobody at all, and that might drop a hint. And if you and please follow the podcast and rate us and review us on Apple. I mean, do you think we should make a little blurb?
Unless you're going to give us a one. No, one of the things that I'm really loving about this podcast so far in our 4 episodes is that I look forward to the conversation with you.
Same.
I mean, it may grow dim and dull and boring, but right now I am looking forward to sitting down and having a conversation with you right now in real time, at least for us. And I love the fact that our introduction is different every time. I mean, we can come up with a tagline, a line. I'm like, we're here to stir up horticulture and, guests and gadgets and garden and gear.
People would be like, I wonder what the GQT has to say this week. Let's go to Gardener's Question Time. I don't want to listen.
That's true. I love Gardener's Question Time. I enjoy it.
Oh, I think it's fabulous. Yeah.
Actually, they have fun there too. All right, just go to Gardener's Question Time. Fine.
No, stay with us. Stay with us. We're so fun.
But if you're here, we love you. We're so glad you're here. We're going to continue to get better and better at this. Leslie's already bringing a lot of knowledge into this. I am starting to realize how difficult podcasts are, and that you don't get to edit yourself is to make yourself say exactly what you want to say exactly when you want to say it. You might be able to take a few ums and ers out, but if you mispronounce anemone, it's going to be there for everybody to hear. Although it would be fun to take my voice out and just put me saying anemone when I say it wrong.
So that brings us, because we're having this conversation and we're not going to jump online and say, oh, wait, was that a bulb or a corm when we're talking about, what was that little one? The Claytonia.
Claytonia.
For example. But I do edit this podcast and it's fun to go back and listen to the boo-boos that we made. I leave a lot of them in. But at the beginning of every next podcast, we're going to try to, either explain further or clear up anything that was a little bit nebulous the time that you heard us before, 2 weeks ago. So what do we have this time? Claytonia is a bulb. Yay.
Well, no, I said it was a bulb, and then
Yeah.
I was just talking about it as a bulb and suddenly thought, wait a minute, it is a bulb, right? You have that moment, and thank God it was a bulb. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny little bulb, but it is a bulb, and it is a fabulous one. So grow it, or become friends with me, and maybe I'll give you some.
Ooh, that is my choice.
Now that's going to be when we get this podcast up and going on a actual place where you can find the notes, which we are going to do. And I'm in the midst of doing that. I was doing that just before we got on tonight. But that's neither here nor there. Right now, we're talking about xylem and phloem. That was another thing that we talked about last week. And
not well.
No, not well. I sort of mumbled xylem, and you said, what is it? Xylem, phloem? I went, well, xylem. If I don't commit completely, then maybe they won't say how ignorant I am. And I don't even know if I was correct in whatever the hell I said at the time, but xylem and phloem are
what are they? They're conduits. They're very
vascular
important.
tissues. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It made me laugh to even think about pausing right there, and then it made me laugh more. They are the ways that the plant gets food and water and nutrients to itself, and it has two different basically highways.
Yeah.
And one highway is coming up from the roots, and that's the xylem, and that's giving nutrients and water to the plant. And the other one is taking all of those food and sugars that it's making in those beautiful leaves and bringing them down to the rest of the plant. And that is the phloem. So in this case, where we were talking about daffodils, and you were positing that braiding the daffodil foliage would break those vascular tissues and stop the phloem from coming down. It would be the phloem, but would it really? I'm still sort of like, I don't know that it would. I just think it's offensive and you shouldn't do it.
Marianne has spoken. Okay, so here's a good way. I always needed these things for quizzes in high school. Here's a good way to remember these things. The xylem, which is the northbound highway, getting the nutrients up from the roots to the green, um, is the xylem. Just try to remember that. The phloem, well, gravity is going to help us here. The phloem is flowing them on down, gravity, on
Okay.
the southbound route. So phloem is flowing south with gravity. We can remember that, I think.
That's right. So you only really have to remember one.
Yeah.
Process of elimination means that you've got the other one.
Yeah. So we're good on that. All right.
Fabulous. I'm so glad your talents as a teacher could come through there.
Yeah. This is my third career, and first one was okay. I would also like to point out the fact and congratulate you on the fact that you took the time and the effort to successfully pronounce the word anemone.
Only once though.
But you did it well, and not like when you muttered xylem, xylem, I think it's xylem. It was
Well,
strong. It was anemone, and that's the way the word is pronounced. That's the way it's spelled, so I would choose to pronounce it that way myself. Right after that, right after me giving you a hard time, Scott starts talking about an enemy. Like he has an enemy. I'm like, okay, Scott, we're just going to give you a hard time, even though you're not here to defend yourself. That is probably not the way you say it because it's not spelled that way.
that's the way I love to make fun of Scott when he's not here to defend himself. That is the best way to make fun of Scott.
So good. So we ticked that box. Excellent. It is anemone. Oh, we also, a couple other little things with that. There's an anemone blanda, which I'm getting 100 of in the mail tomorrow. I'm so excited. That's an early bulb. Scott and I were opining that we thought it was a very early bloomer, but like you with the Claytonia, like, oh God, is that a bulb? Oh God, is that an early bloomer? No, not so early. It's April, but it's a really low little thing. It would look great with cute little daffodils. And then Scott brought up the Anemone sylvestris, which is actually not a bulb at all. It's a great plant. It's a native. It's a bit of a thug, but it has, I think, May white flowers. It's about 12 inches tall, and it is an herbaceous perennial. So now we have straightened out our anemone things.
Fascinating. And there was one other thing actually. You and Scott were trying to figure out if hyacinths were too smelly, and I Googled it, and it turns out yes, they are.
That is so subjective. You stop that.
I wish I could change your mind
Can
on
you
this.
hear her eyes rolling at me?
Back into my head. So much so that I can hardly sip this delicious Zinfandel.
Are you drinking already? Maybe I should open my beer. Okay.
What are you talking about? I thought that was the point.
Here we go, the mixer. And it's not mixing up anything except for your disdain because it's a Coors Light.
Oh no,
It's
come
true.
on.
It's true. I got bubbles.
Oh, all right. Let's just have this out on the table. What's so great about Coors Light? I mean, they're not paying us.
No, they certainly nobody is. Um, we, we got Blue Mountains that tell you if the can is cold. I like that a lot. And then it doesn't have a lot of calories.
Wait a minute. None of those have anything to do with taste. I
Oh, it tastes
just,
really good. I love the way it tastes. It's like it's like making love in a canoe.
oh, I don't even know what to say about that, but I'm intrigued.
It's fucking close to water. That is why I like it. You can have several.
So you're allowed to leave an F-bomb, but I'm not. Okay, fair
Oh,
enough.
that will be bleeped out later.
Okay, that's very funny. You know, my father always drank Coors Light, and it was a funny thing because he's an Englishman and transplanted to the US. But he thought that there was nothing better than a very, very cold light lager after a long, hard day in the sun,
Or during it, which is an
or
option.
during it. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. All right, Coors Light sorted. Okay, check, check, check.
Did we clear up everything from our mess
I
from last week?
think yes, hyacinths are too smelly, claytonias are bulbs, and
Wait,
xylem
wait,
and
can we go
phloem.
back to this? Hyacinths are too smelly for you. How do you explain that to listeners who actually like the smell of hyacinths?
I do like the smell, but they are smelly. I mean, you
But
put one in your house and then you come in and you think, am I in a funeral parlor or am I in my dining room? Which is it? I'm not sure.
look, we don't have that many listeners. You just don't want to offend. If
Oh,
you
okay.
like the smell of a hyacinth, go
All
for
right.
it.
All right, Leslie, if you're going to pander, then that's fine.
All right, anything else to clear up from last week?
No, I think that about does it. And I think this week, instead of you starting to interrogate me and making me look like a fool with the questions that you pull out of left field, I think I'd like to ask you a few questions
I
actually
am
this week.
so ready.
Are
I'm
you
really ready.
excited and relaxed and ready to
Yeah,
go?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm loosening my shoulders. Woo.
And it has to do with your new garden and specifically downsizing into your new garden and the experience of that. And I know you've talked about it on Instagram in the past, which Instagram cruelly stole from you by taking your
Oh my
account
God, it was
away.
so well documented. And now poof, it is gone.
And now it's gone. But I want to get a little idea, and I'm looking at this in terms of a gardener with a huge garden that I often feel overwhelmed by, but somebody who had a very small, very manageable garden for a long time. But when I was in that space, when I was in that very small, tiny garden, and I say that one, but I had many, I was always dreaming of if I had more space, if I had more space. And now I have more space. So I'm looking back at that thinking, oh, wow, that was so manageable. So now you've done both.
Mhm.
You've done small gardens, then you've done bigger garden, and now you're back to small again. And I want to know from that perspective a few things.
Okay.
First off, what do you love about your small garden, about this new downsized plot? And actually tell the listeners first how big your garden is and how big it was.
Oh, so small. So I left a garden that was in central Charlottesville, right near the university, that was a double lot that was almost an acre. I think it was point 0.8. And I gardened up a storm there. There was a stream running through it. It was a lovely piece of land, really mature trees. And some places were formal, and I got out the scissors to prune my little boxwoods, and some places were more feral, and I just was having a ball. And the neighborhood was changing. We got a bunch of grandchildren. We wanted to have a place up near where our happily both of our children and their progeny settled, which is the same town that we raised them in Greenwich, Connecticut. So we bought a little place up there. We wanted to be more turnkey. Plus, what I said about the neighborhood changing in Charlottesville. Yeah, there are going to be 6 condominiums across the street from that house where we used to be. Can you imagine? It's
Hard.
it's really changing. It's hard. So we got out. I'm in a little HOA, and it's so small. I can't even describe to you how small it is. Let me think. Okay, let's talk about the size of your just vegetable garden. Do you know the dimensions of that more or less? Is
Yeah,
that
that's 40 by 60.
40 by 60? Okay. So the bowling alley part of my garden, which is a lovely little place that I've made between the house and this retaining wall, is probably 20 by 6. And then I'm beginning to garden up on that hill. What did you say about that?
I said it was a beautiful backside.
Yes, you did. Very firm. I'll get that under control. I have good dreams about that, including the bulbs that you very smartly recommended to me to do because of good drainage bulbs. Bulbs make good sense with good drainage. Plus, I can set my big fat bottom on the sofa and look up at them when it's too cold to be out there. And then there's a little patch in front amongst some Japanese maples and another little weeping. What did we decide that was? A weeping pussy willow, right? You identified that for me. I had no idea.
Yes, I'm trying to go back in my head and
Yeah, it's just right by the
remember.
front door. So
Yeah.
I've done some borders there. Every time I go to cut the edge, I take more lawn away. But my big plan will be in the next couple of years to take away the very small front lawn and just say, why no child is kicking a ball out there? And I'm certainly past my sunbathing days. So we're going to take that away and put in some lovely native trees and some easy perennials. So what was the question?
Okay, well, thank you for describing that so ably, Leslie. What is it you're loving about it?
I would say the bowling alley is what I love best. It was just lawn. It was this long place where my poor dog, when we moved in, Ginny was well documented on Instagram. If anybody remembers her, she was an English Springer Spaniel, and she was 14 when we moved here, and she had 13 good years, if you know what I mean, if you have an older dog. So Ginny and I would go out there, and I would try to remind her what it was like about where you're supposed to use the loo because she was so old she was forgetting. And I just paste it with her and began to dream about what could be. And I'm really loving it. It's kind of up your alley, Marianne, because it has a lot of tropicals. I figured out that it has a bit more sun than I would have thought. I got rid of all the grass, literally cut it up, turned it upside down, and used it as mulch. So grass is down, soil, clay is up, and that's disintegrated well. And then I bought all these bags of white marble from Home Depot, and I have this lovely little undulating path that leads to my great grandfather's huge metal urn, which sort of ends the scene. So I think I
Your
love that
grandfather
best.
is not in that urn, right?
Yeah, no, it's not one of those types of urns, although, oh God, I've had
He
plenty
could
of.
fit in it maybe
Oh,
because
he
it
could
was quite big.
absolutely, with no cremation needed. Um, gross.
Oh, wow. We've just become irreverent too.
Yes, we
Wow.
have. I didn't know the man. I think he was great, great actually. But it's a very large urn, and it kind of ends the garden. And I've put one of those. I think you might have recommended or you approved. I put a morning light miscanthus in that pot. I'm loving it.
I recommended a morning light. I don't know if I recommended it for the urn.
Well, that's where it is. Sorry, babe.
I think you put it in there just because you needed a place for it. Okay, so have you come to terms with your stuccoed wall for that retaining wall? Because here's another word that I never get right. Patina.
Yeah, patina, patina. That's the way Americans pronounce it. You might do something
I
different.
know. I'm always having to think about it differently. Okay, so I really loved that just sort of earthy look to it, but you were uncomfortable with it and trying to bathe it with moss. And has any of that happened?
That did not work.
It did not work.
No. But here's the deal. Stucco is such a lovely word. This is poured concrete. Oh, but I did something good. All right. So it was covered with ivy. I'm not a fan of ivy, but there were some beautiful cultivars. So I did keep the roots and I just thought maybe my heart will soften toward these yellow and green and white and cute little, we'll see what goes on with that. One of the plants that made the travel team, well, it was in a pot, so of course it did, that came from my old garden was this awesome little collection of tiny coral bark maples. And if you could come up with the Japanese name that indicates exactly what that tree is, I will be so impressed.
Sango kaku.
Oh, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Acer palmatum, Sango kaku. I'm pretty sure it's palmatum. Yeah.
I think it's pomon.
Hmm.
Great tree. I stole some babies off a client's land. I was weeding. They were weeds. They were not plants in the right place. And I took these three trees and I was growing them in a pot a few weeks ago when I noticed them and thought, that's not going to last forever, is it? I guess I could have done just what is the term for the tiny tree in the pot that grow for hundreds of years?
Oh, bonsai. Okay, so
Bonsai.
I suppose so. So wait a minute, I have to stop you for a second. I thought that was a grafted cultivar. Is that actually true from seed?
Well, I don't know where I would have gotten them.
But what are they looking like? Are they sort of
Coral bark.
are they actually going red? Is the bark
Yeah.
going red and
Yeah.
is it a chartreuse leaf?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
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 That's exactly what's happening. Oh, yeah,
Oh
really.
wow. Can I totally have one?
No, because absolutely not. Because here's what I did.
I already have my own, so screw you.
Because that coral bark is going to make me so happy in front of that concrete wall. So I put them in front of each of there were three, and then I actually had something that was similar. It's a different cultivar, but it has a bright, not coral, colored bark. And now I have them in increments in the bowling alley, and I'm going to kind of
Wait a minute.
espalier them in some way. Yeah? Don't you think that's
Uh,
good?
I don't know about that. Okay, so
Yeah. Well, whose garden is it? I'm just curious.
look, I only just voice concerns. Okay, that's the only
Yeah,
reason
you
I'm
do.
here.
Strongly.
These these can be not like super large trees, but fairly big trees. I actually regularly prune my coral bark maple because, and this is my own personal opinion, it has an odd growing habit. It has sort of a rangy habit.
They all do, or just yours?
No,
You have a problem over there?
beg your pardon. Every time I've seen them large, they seem to be rangy. And meaning that okay, they're not just this big symmetrical, perfectly round tree. I was at Pam Harper's garden years ago, and I mentioned that to her. She had one, and hers was doing the same sort of odd, just sort of reaching in one direction a little bit and then a little bit oddly in another. And I said something about their rangy habit. And she said, "Oh, I quite like it." And I thought, well, you know what? I need to look at it differently. I need to be more open to, they don't all have to be this perfect tree shape. But that said, I do prune mine a little bit here and there to try and keep them from being too awkward. I only have one.
Well, the awkwardness will come with my making it into a spal. They're going to be four espaliers. They are going to
S-
be
I have never heard of
two-dimensional.
that being done with an acer with a Japanese maple. Have you?
Well, no, but I have pruners. Just watch me. I can do it.
Okay, you know what? Agreed. 100%. You go, girl. Actually, I'd be curious to see espalier a Japanese maple. If any listeners have any, I mean, all eight of you, if any of you have got, just kidding. I have no idea. Leslie won't let me look at the stats.
No,
She
no,
doesn't
it's
want
too
me to.
depressing.
She doesn't want me
We're working on it. It's going to be fine.
to. If any of you have ever seen that even, please email me because at this point we don't have the podcast up yet. So you have to have a way to get hold of us. It's Marianne at mariannewilburn.com. Email me because I want to know if you've seen that before. And if you have a picture, even better.
Oh, yeah. Right across from the espaliered fig that's on the chimney. And I got that idea from, guess where, Great Dixter. Marianne and I, the first time we actually physically met each other was going to a symposium at Great Dixter. We had talked on the podcast on Zoom and stuff. Anyway, we both have quite an affinity for that place. And Great Dixter has the most amazing and impressive textural espaliered fig on the side of a barn. It's the opposite of the angular thing, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to make it artsy and go where it's going to go. You might think of espaliers as being, right angles. You can do that. I've done it before. It's can be very pleasing. But my fig and those four Japanese maples are going to be, picture a Japanese plate with some, scene, and it's going to be just so perfectly zen and beautiful. I'm going to make it good.
Okay.
You're not convinced.
That sounded very pejorative. I
Yes,
know.
it did.
No, no. But do you remember the espaliered fig at Sissinghurst in the Hot Garden? Do you remember that?
No, remind me.
That one you need to go and do a bit of Googling because you may want to play because at Dixter it really does sort of come out as a big fan on
Yes.
that wall, and it's extraordinary. Sissinghurst, Vita Sackville West did these sort of curly cues.
Oh, I do remember
Do
that
you
now.
remember?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was hard. I don't know if I want to do that.
yeah, but wow, in the off season, talk about why Winter Garden, man. That is, you have that to go.
Oh, is
And
that on
plus,
your list to talk about today?
oh no, 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 no. Do not distract me. I've got very important questions to ask you.
Okay.
Let's move on from the things you're loving. We get it. You're gonna espalier these poor acers. Who knows what's gonna happen there? We'll stay tuned. I'm personally on the edge of my seat. The second question is, what are you grumbling about? What are you finding yourself going, oh, darn it, I can't do that here, or oh, right, that's the other garden. Where's that happening? Is it
I
happening?
think it's just individual plants that I'm missing. So, in the rare occasion when I hop on Instagram anymore, because I'm still mad at them, I would see a picture of, oh, I don't know, the lobelia syphilitica in bloom or in somebody else's garden. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't bring that with me. I've got to go back. So this poor woman who lives in my house now, I'm just going to knock at the door and say, hey, no, I'll text her. We have a great relationship because you know how it is when you move a million packages come. And she was so gracious about it. Besides that, the gardening company that I ran is now going to start taking care of that garden next spring. And all plants need editing. So I'm going to be able to get cuttings of what I miss. And these are all plants that I could buy, but it's kind of more fun if you got something special from a friend to take that cutting and have that particular plant live on. I would say the hours and hours of, oh, okay, I'm all done tidying, and now we have to, it's like painting the Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, we're all done. Well, let's start again. I'm not missing the amount of labor, although I never thought it was labor before, but my life has been freed up to do other things such as visiting grandchildren where we are now. And so I guess I've just sort of evolved as this all in, all I do is garden. I'm running my business, then I sold my business. So I'm gardening at 50 different gardens. And then for a couple of years, I'm just gardening at mine. And now mine is so small and I don't hate it. I got to tell you, it's kind of freeing.
And that's sort of why I'm asking you the question, because I know that we have a lot of listeners, all eight of you, that are, possibly either downsizing or thinking about downsizing in the future, and it's terrifying. Paige Dickey wrote the book, what is it? It's so good.
Uprooted.
Uprooted. And she actually goes to a garden that to me is just as difficult. I mean, there's so much to the
Oh,
garden.
it's bigger.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually bigger. She
Yeah.
she upsized. It was a great book. This is a book moment with Marianne Wilburn.
Oh, but I've read this one, so it's different than all the other book moments. And Paige Dickey was on with the show with me when it was Into the Garden with Leslie. The reason that her upsizing is so cool is that she has very little cultivated space compared to what she had at Duck Hill, which is where she was in, I guess it was Salem, New York. Now she's up north in either New York or northern Connecticut, northwestern Connecticut. I can't remember which side of the line she's on, but her cultivated space at Church House is much smaller. But what she's really doing is gardening by subtraction by taking those, I think it's 17 acres, and wandering around and just sort of freeing up what's supposed to be there by getting rid of alien invasive plants. And she loves seeing the ones that are supposed to be there. Or I know that's a sore topic with you because you're like, wait,
Everything's just gone up on the back of my neck. Okay,
I
go ahead.
know, but she's enjoying not
No, I
seeing
understand.
the
Yeah.
the things that are not making her happy, and she's just editing. Fabulous book. She is a fabulous writer, and that is one of my favorite podcast episodes that I did when it was just Into the Garden with Leslie. There were not as many chuckles as there are with you, but that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good one, and I really liked that book. It made me laugh because she was changing and going to a bigger garden.
Yeah.
And most of us are sort of looking at it thinking, are we going to end up here in this
Hmm.
bigger garden, or do we need to downsize? And how do you know? And what will it feel like? And that's the reason I wanted to ask you these penetrating, like 60 minutes ask
I
questions.
know. Our hand was forced by the town fathers of Charlottesville who are trying to make things better for affordable housing, having trouble processing the fact that what's going up and across the street from our house is six different $1 million condominiums on one property. I don't understand the affordable part of that, but that is not my thing to have to try to figure out. Our hand was forced. If your hand is not forced, but you're thinking about it, I can just tell you that I am very happy to be gardening in a small space. It's a good adventure, it's a good change, and this body ain't getting any younger. So all good.
Well, you look 38,
No,
Leslie.
I don't. That's no, that's
But
we
I
got
think
this
it's
off.
because the camera is far away from you.
I sit as far away from that camera as I can.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to say about you moving and feeling it was time for you to move, the interesting thing is that the lady who has bought your house
Hmm.
from the pretty soon on, she knows the condo is those condos are going in. That's going to be
Mm.
part of her normal world,
Hmm.
and development is a part of a lot of our worlds, and that's going to be her bottom line. So it's not going to affect her the way that it affects you because you enjoyed just a house across the street from you, right? For
Right.
so long. And I know that for us, when we were at our house in Brunswick, which was the house we were at just before we came here for 10 years, the woman who had lived in that house for 80 years,
Oof.
for the longest, for all of her life, she moved in when she was 1 year old. And across the street was a baseball diamond. It was the old high school. And then they actually built truly affordable housing across the street. And there were suddenly 15 houses where there were no houses. And that
Mm.
was just very, very difficult for her to cope with because it's
Hmm.
just a different view. And but for us, when we moved in, those were there. And that was our neighborhood. And meanwhile, below us, there was a lot of open space, which while we were there, got developed as well. And then for me, that was like, how dare they? So, I mean, it's all very, very relative. And she's probably going to be just as happy there as you were there, especially if you're telling her about your plants and she's got somebody working on them for her.
Yeah. They're intelligent people. They knew what they were getting into. It wasn't going to bother them. Plus, they didn't have that other huge partial reason of, wait, all these people live in Connecticut. Let's get a little place up there. So the turnkey thing was part of it.
Right. So what are the plants in your little garden now that make the most impact, do you think? And why?
Ivy.
Okay. I'm talking about positive impact.
Yeah. I would say that these cute little Japanese maples that I inherited are good. Oh, my biggest tree is a crepe myrtle. It's a good looking one. What color? Pink flowers, but it's so tall that I can't see the flowers. The bark on those things is just beautiful. That just caps off the corner of the bowling alley. And I love looking at the bark. And I've got just sort of a woven tapestry thing of hostas and azaleas at the base of it. And that's very visible from the living room. That's really good. I really like the idea of this wall and what I can do to improve it. And as I said, at first I was just like, oh God, ivy, let's get it off and let's try moss. Moss didn't work. I could paint it, but then I'd have to keep painting it. So I'll see about that. But I think that's a unique garden feature to have a retaining wall, especially if you could reach out and touch it from almost any vantage point in the garden.
Speaking as somebody who had a very unique garden feature of a cinder block wall without the benefit of even
Oh,
a stucco layer on it in my last house, and just sort of the ugliness of that and the inability, because it was always so wet, to successfully stucco it.
oh,
There was just a lot of moisture on it. We knew the stucco would just peel off. We never did it. I love your wall. I think it's a fabulous feature that you are going to fall in love with over time. But I think it's interesting that you point out the Acer, the maple, and the crepe myrtle, because those are not just very beautiful in the season, but they are gorgeous at this time of year and they are gorgeous in the winter. They're
hmm.
very structural plants that make you feel like you have a garden even when the growing season is 6 months away, right?
Yeah, a garden needs trees, and they're not very big, but there are a few of them here, and I'm going to try to really build around them for layers and succession flowers, which, both of us are interested in. Bunch of bulbs coming tomorrow in the mail. I'm very excited about that.
So tell me, you already said that you are getting a lot of anemones.
Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you. What else? Did you actually get some species tulips?
I did not. I made my order in August, and you and I talked about the species tulips a couple episodes ago, this fall. And so I had already placed my order, and I had told you listeners, you, you happy few, um,
We
that
keep saying this eight.
I know.
People are actually going to think we're
I'm
serious.
sure that like 16 or
You're actually 8,000, okay?
8,000 listeners. It's great.
We talk in terms of, we just shorten it just to make it
Yeah,
easier to say.
reductionist terms. I did not order them. I did not have success with them back in my old garden. I'm going to try them again, maybe next fall. I've got, there's this fabulous way that we didn't talk about, but it's pretty obvious actually. We talked about buying bulbs from Color Blends, and they've actually marketed it, but anybody could do this. All bulbs, almost all bulbs, the tulip, which has many different cultivars, has early, middle, late. So I literally bought this collection called White Cubed, and in it, they, intelligent people at Color Blends, have put in early ones, middle ones, and white ones, all of the same color, white. And they have a pink cube collection and a red cube collection, blah, blah, blah. So I'm excited about that. And I'm doing crocuses and what else? Oh, the little Chionodoxa.
Mhm. That was one of the things we could have talked about, is how do you actually pronounce that? I always say Kynodoxa, but it
Chionodoxa.
could be Chinadoxa.
Yeah, it's a
I don't know.
CH.
And I will say, I have heard plant people that I would bow down and worship say it both ways. Not the same person, but different people. So, it's like schizocarium or a schizacrium. Who knows?
Who knows? And who cares really, as long as
Yeah.
you know what you're talking about. So yeah, I'm excited to put some bulbs on. I'm going to put those tulips in the front. I didn't do any dapps because I have a pretty good collection already. Mostly thalia. You say thalia, I say thalia.
Yeah.
A white one. So yeah, I'm ready to go, ready to make some holes. Also lilies, a couple of different types, really tall ones going along that fence and also along that the retaining wall to smell up my little cute little garden in the summer next summer.
Very cool. And I will say that Brent and Becky's also has a white collection because I did that with 100 bulbs a couple years ago. And the fun thing about that was I wasn't really sure what was going to come up. And so there were a lot of different fringed tulips and there were some daffodils that I might not have tried before and all of these things that there was a hyacinth in there. I do remember that. It's very smelly.
Oh, poor you.
But and I knew that when I put it in. I was like, oh, that's a hyacinth. Um,
Yuck.
but that is a really fun way to maybe find some bulbs that you didn't know existed. I've had that happen with a perennial mix. I did a wildflower seed mix from American Meadows about, oh, easily 6 or 7 years ago.
Where'd you put it?
That is in this new perennial garden that I'm doing. It
Yeah.
started out as the quote mini meadow, the mini wildflower meadow. It's 15 by 30 foot space. I was just basically keeping it as a placeholder. Wildflower meadow, try that whole thing out. I wasn't thrilled enough that I'm going to keep it forever, or that I was going to keep it forever. And I decided instead to go for a perennial bed and that's what I'm working on now. But there's some holdovers from that. There's some things that seeded themselves and reseeded themselves that I might not have ever tried. And one of those is Black-eyed Susan, which I believe is Rudbeckia fulgida, and the variety is Demii. And I think
Hmm.
that's what it is because they don't divulge their seed collections. I'm going to have to actually call them up and say, "Hey, look, what's in that one?"
Yeah.
It is still blooming, Leslie. What is it? The 26th right now? It is
Of
still blooming.
November,
And it's
people.
not when I say it's blooming, I don't mean like one little bloom is coming up. I mean like, "Hey, look at this." I mean, I just picked those today.
Wow. She's showing me a posy.
Do you recognize the little vase?
Oh, yes, you had those. You supplied those to us on our
That's
trip.
right. On our dinners together on our trip, we had little vases with your names.
Oh, speaking of trips, we should, when we finish up on this, we should talk about
Yes, let's talk
trips.
about trips. Let's definitely talk about trips. But this is one of those plants that it came in, those seeds, and then all of a sudden, wow, it's on my radar. This is a great plant. So this is a terrific thing to do with bulbs too, is to do a mixture, and then you may find something in there that you absolutely adore that you didn't know existed or that would work for you. So
Hmm.
species tulips next year. I may send you some. Let's
All
see,
right.
when is it right now? What could I send you? I have to think about it. Let's see
You may send
what's.
me some now for to plant now this fall.
Yeah, how energetic are you feeling?
Pretty energetic. I
Okay.
have a lot of energy. I'm one of those girls that runs around.
Well, you're looking well.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Listeners, interesting fall for Leslie. Lost my mother and mother-in-law within 2.5 weeks. However, both of them were elderly, and it was a blessing, But these ladies and their timing, it was a bit much there.
The timing was hard. Your attitude is extraordinary.
Well, their attitudes were so great. They were both. They loved life. They were wonderful. My mother had dementia. My mother-in-law was just, 99. She did not have dementia, but it was getting hard to be, it's not easy to be 99. So I wish them well on their next garden in the sky. Well, let me take that back because my mother really didn't like to garden, but my mother-in-law, she was a gardener.
Can I just share the thing that makes me, and I didn't know your mother, but I just love this and I want to emulate this in my life, even though I don't wear lipstick too much. And that is that your mother would wake up from her hospital bed and that she would reach for lipstick to put on.
Oh yeah, this was her thing.
I find that I love that. I love the I'm here life every day. I'm putting on my lace-up shoes and I'm coming out there. I'm not going to slob around. I'm going to greet this day with lipstick. I love that.
She broke her hip in September, woke up from the surgery, and immediately asked my sister who was there, "Where is my lipstick?" And then she applied it almost perfectly. I mean, I don't know where I came from because I'm still figuring out how to, that skill has eluded me completely. But yeah, she was a force, that one.
I'm a lip gloss
Yeah,
girl.
me
I
too.
always have been, and a colored lip gloss,
I
absolutely.
can
But
handle that.
I have not bought a
We
lipstick
have extra.
since I was probably 17 or 18. No, I don't want those. Yeah, I actually feel like if it was on my lips, I would feel like I couldn't talk.
Yeah. No, it's stiff stuff. I like the gloss.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, moving on. Where were we?
Moving on swiftly. Okay, so here's the last question.
Oh, there's more.
There's one last one. Do you feel that your life now has more balance between garden and life? Or do you feel like you're missing something in the garden department, or does it feel more balanced? And I know there's a lot going on in your life right now, especially with
Yeah,
everything
still
going.
settling with
It's still
these last
settling.
couple months. So moved in September of 2023. These ladies went to the next place here in no October and early November. So I had a full year of like, after you move, of this is my life. And the good news is that yes, I really like my new life. And yes, I do feel like it is balanced more. The bad news is that I've kind of fallen in love with golf. Uh-oh.
Oh man, golf and grandkids, you have just entered the dark side.
I know.
And the dark
So
side that maybe all of us will enter someday, but I
it's bad. It's bad.
you know that Jeff is just so excited you because you're it's like if I said to Mike, I am going into hockey, honey. I love hockey now. I've suddenly turned this very advanced age and now I love hockey.
Jeff is so happy in a way, but then again, he's totally tracking that he's sort of created a monster here. I mean, this is expensive. I got new shoes the other day. That's my
Okay.
third pair of golf shoes. Oh my gosh. All right. No, but I
Right.
totally balanced. I would say more balanced. I love my time in the garden and I still do. There's nothing better than sticking on Margaret Roach's podcast. I wish you would edit it, but it's a great podcast. Or, ours because they make me laugh. Or any sort of gardening podcast or music, and just going at it and having that
Mhm.
time or saying, no, 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 I'm taking out these earbuds and I just want to listen to the birds because we have a beautiful hawk that squawks at me all the time here. And just the rustlings and the birds. And it's just, I love my husband dearly, but that alone time is very important to me. There's less of it now, but it's still, I value it very highly.
So you can condense it down into and still feel like you have it.
Yeah. And now let's go hit the pelota.
Okay, as long as you don't start up with pickleball, I think I'm good.
No, no, no. I tried that. I'm like, oh, I'm the idiot who would go for the ball. I played a ton of competitive tennis and I'm like, yeah, I cannot train myself not to try to get that ball. And this body should not be lunging for that ball.
Do you have to lunge in pickleball?
Yeah, if you're an idiot, you do. No, you don't. But I'm missing that piece. I would. It would be bad.
I very gently offered the idea of pickleball to my husband the other day, who loves tennis, and I like tennis too. I'm not competitive tennis or anything, but he looked at me with such disdain, and I said, "Well, we've got these meniscuses, and we've got these
Oh
shoulders, and
no, it's literally an orthopedic guy said to me, "This game is putting my children through college."
ah,
It's it's really bad. It's not you can get hurt. So be careful.
okay, fair enough, fair enough." Okay, so moving on, next topic. What's it going to
I
be?
think travel. I'm ready to travel. Let's go. We're
Oh,
going
hey,
to, can
travel.
we go to Cornwall? Because I've always wanted to go.
Yes, actually, we can very much go to Cornwall. Andrea Gaspar and I, the trip of which you went on, that was such a fun trip.
So
Uh,
fun.
we had such a great group of people. It was just fun. The hotels were fantastic. You know what? I've always been a traveler that I don't care where I stay as long as it is safe.
Oh, I do. God.
Okay, exactly. Can I just let the listeners know where I'm coming from? We already know you're a princess,
I'm
okay?
such a princess.
Okay. I had no problem wherever I stay as long as it was clean and safe. Many times that has not been the case, particularly in Nairobi,
Oh, oh no. That
but
sounds distasteful.
I didn't really care. And Andrea talked to me a lot about hotels and how important they are. And I realized when I was doing Carolyn Mullet's trips at Carrick's that, yeah, hotels matter to people and it can change a trip, right? Where you're
Yeah.
staying. And it's also can be part of the trip. Like we stayed at the Randolph in the middle of Oxford, and the Randolph is the stuff of of
Television
Inspector Morse
shows.
and Inspector Lewis. It's a hub. It's across from the Ashmolean, and all of a sudden you're staying there and you're having a drink in the Morse bar, and it's just fabulous.
Oh
So
yeah.
anyway, all that aside, we have put a lot of emphasis into where are we going to stay and how is it going to affect the trip. And we found a couple really great hotels. One is in Devon, and the other one is in Cornwall. We are going to be going from RHS Wisley to from their show, which is at the beginning of September. It's not Chelsea. It's not the Chelsea Flower Show in that there's not people hitting each other with flowered handbags and you know elbowing each other all over the place.
Sorry, sorry.
Sorry. No huge designed gardens there besides the design that is Wisley and is so fantastic. But a huge amount of vendors, huge amount of nurseries with their beautiful plants, like the Great Pavilion stuff is still
Oh,
going to
the
be
great,
there.
yeah. So all those great, fabulous plants. Pim's Cup, may I inquire?
Well,
Oh
no, you
God,
know
oh
what?
God.
I know, but it's September, Leslie, and you see there's a time and a place
Oh,
for
sorry.
everything. And actually, that brings me to a very funny story, which we do not have time for me to share, so I will not. But I will share it
Good
with you.
self-editing, so I don't have to edit this
You don't
later.
have to edit that out later. Um, it is a terrific show, and they have got some wonderful vendors there. And we're going to go from there out to Cornwall. We're going to go to some of the gardens that you've heard about, like the Lost Gardens of Heligan, like
Oh,
Tresellick, like Coteal, not Glendurgan, Treba, which is so cool. Down moves to the coast. The World War II forces, American forces, left there for the D-Day landing,
oh
which
wow.
is pretty amazing to think of. Not the only forces, but that was one of the places that they left from.
Wait, back it on up here because people might be listening to this saying, "Oh, that's so nice that she's going on a lovely trip." No, no, you can go on this lovely trip.
Oh, no, 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 no. You're coming
Yeah,
with me. Please come
yeah.
with
Everybody
me.
come. This is a tour. This is a
It
garden
is a
tour.
tour. It is cultural, it is horticultural, it's horticultural.
That's the name of the business.
That's
Yeah.
right. And then we're going to uh
Another place.
I'm so glad you can edit. Another place. We're going to go to the Isle of Scilly, or the Isles of Scilly, rather, and we're going to the wonderful garden at Tresco Abbey, which is a bucket list garden for a lot of people, but it's always a bit of a hassle to get over there and do that. I've never been because it's always a bit of a hassle. You have to take a ferry or you have to fly a plane. Well, we're going to go in a helicopter
Oh,
and we're going to take off and enjoy the day and see those beautiful gardens and then come back. It's going to be a fantastic trip. And then actually on the way out there, we're going to see Wildside Garden,
okay.
which is one of the most exciting gardens in the UK. I mean, I put that, I would love to put it second under Dixter. And because Fergus Garrett is probably not listening to this podcast because he would make nine.
Uh-oh.
I will slot it in right there with Dixter because it is just such a cool, interesting, vibrant garden and by Keith Wiley. And we are also going to go to Garden House, which is very nearby there. And we were even thinking, we're still figuring out the little back end bit on the way back, but we were thinking about going back to Eyford just to see it.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So when will this take place?
September, beginning of September.
Okay.
So if you are interested, I keep saying we're going to be announcing these, but there is so much back end stuff to do to
There you
get
are with the
them.
back end again.
I know it's always back end. We are also putting together a trip for those who want to be even more adventurous to Portugal and Madeira. And that is a lot sooner. That is at the end of March, beginning of April. So that's coming up really soon. So if you're one of those people who goes, I want to do something and I want it to be fun and I don't want to just be on a tour where I'm one of 50 people and yada, yada, yada. I want to have a bit of humor and enjoy myself and stay at a fabulous hotel. then you need to come with us because we're staying at Reed's Palace in Madeira. Look it up. It's incredible. Leslie, you're going to be so jealous because I know
No,
that
I
you
can't
can't
go.
come. You're not able
No.
to go.
But I'm thinking about the Cornwall one. So how do people find out if they go to mariannewilburn.com?
They go to Marianne at mariannewilburn.com or they send me an email at marianne at mariannewilburn.com and I'll put you on my mailing list and we'll be sorting this out within the next week of getting either your interest for Portugal or getting signed up for September for Cornwall and those are the trips for next year. The year after,
Yeah.
ooh.
What? What do you got? What do you
Oh,
got?
just fun stuff. I mean, think we may add one more trip in there next in
In
2026. So
2025 or 2026?
2026. I mean, the problem is I actually do have a life outside of touring people around, so I have to actually conduct that life. I can't just be traveling all the time. So this is to help people to get out of their gardens and just go see a bit of the world and go get globally inspired by so many fantastic designs and gardens and plants and just open and expand your mind a little bit.
But also, as you mentioned very briefly, these are not big tours. These are, where are you capping? Under 20?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, under 20. Cornwall will be under 20, and Madeira will probably be around 14 or 15. If I have a really big dinner party at my house, I can still get about 14 people very tight around my dinner table, and that's the idea.
That's the idea. And you really get to know Marianne, which may or may not inspire you to go and sign up for these
Well,
trips.
I'm
But
trying to get them to come,
oh,
Leslie,
I'm
for
sorry. Yeah,
God's
but
sake.
there she is. You can't really avoid her.
Yeah,
But she knows a lot of plants, so just hang out with her.
I do. I don't know how to pronounce anemone, though.
Yes, you do. You're training up very well. I'm proud.
Thank you.
What else do we have here?
Oh, goodness. Where are we in the scheme
Well,
of
we should wrap it
things?
up because it's December 19th. People have Christmas cookies to bake. And
Really?
oh, Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah, this is when it's going out, December 19th.
Oh my gosh, there's so much I want to talk about. Wait. I want to talk about your downsizing your garden. I'm forgetting about when this is coming out. I want to talk about the winter garden, damn it, and that you
No,
should
no,
be
no.
out
We have
there.
all winter to talk about the
Oh,
winter garden.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, there are a few things to think about, and that's greenery for your garden right now. And if you are looking at your table and thinking, oh, I wonder if they've got anything that I can get some greenery expensively somewhere, be adventurous in what you're seeing as available outside. Maybe there's some rose hips in those horribly invasive multiflora rose out there. Use those and no, seriously, think outside the box for Christmas decorations. And if you're going to use some of that bittersweet, that horrible invasive bittersweet, then just make sure you're not scattering it all the way up the road
It
as
does
you
tend to roll around those cute little berries.
they do, so that they go straight into the vacuum cleaner later. But I have, over the years, planted more and more evergreen shrubs and trees specifically to have greenery at Christmas
Oh, wow.
for this season, and different types of greenery grays and greens and yellow greens and then different types of box and all of those different things that I can go out I can put a pretty decent wreath together and I was able to about 6 7 years after we moved here. So I hope that you're making some wreaths. If you're making wreaths, I have, what is it, the 19th this is coming out, that
Hmm.
people are sort of, oh, how am I going to get everything done before Christmas? Why do I need to make a wreath? Now Marianne's put this in my head.
I've already bought a wreath, is what they're saying.
But
She's so
she,
too late, and I'm not doing this.
all right, so I just want to put it in your head for next year then.
Or there's that thing of like you bought a plain wreath, you can gussy it up with something from your garden, right? Stick a few
Oh, a
things in.
hundred percent. Do you have
Yeah.
some variegated boxwood in your garden? You can gussy the hell out of that wreath with just some little sprigs from that.
A Cuba japonica is always a winner. That's
Oh
so
my
cool.
goodness, yes. Now holly tends to dry up really quickly,
Mm.
in a wreath. But magnolia, do you have any magnolia? Does your neighbor have any magnolia that you could just tuck into an existing wreath?
A third option, does your neighbor go to bed early at night and just take a flashlight? You could do that.
Is your neighbor very old and elderly and can't chase you down the street?
Just do it.
Can you put rose hips in it? Can you put crab apples in it even? Can
Yeah.
you put slices of orange and all sorts of bits of apple and cinnamon and there's so many things in the garden. One of the fun things that I found last year or 2 years ago was the fertile fern fronds that you do that come up from ostrich ferns.
The fiddleheads?
Yes, except for
Yeah.
they're not the large fronds. They are the very upright, fertile
Oh, okay.
fronds.
So the things that are waiting to disperse their, not seeds, but
Mhm. Yeah, the
spores.
ones coming up, the big brown ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So so look around and just go out into your garden and look. Don't look for what you think you need. Just look and look very slowly. Take a glass of wine if you need to. Make sure you're completely and totally warm
Hmm.
because you can't do anything out there if you're cold. It'll throw you back inside. So I want you to be completely warm, hat, earmuffs, whatever the hell you need, even if it's 45 degrees, and then just wander and look and think about what's there. Maybe you find a little bit of bracket mushroom.
Ooh.
Think how beautiful that is on a table. A bit of wood, a bit of driftwood. Have fun with it. And there's so much out there. I hope you're not in your neighbor's yard taking things from them.
Really good advice. I'm loving all that, and that is very inspirational. So, listeners, you'll hear us in the new year, and I think that's the great time to talk about the winter garden because everybody is kind of busy getting ready for the holidays. And Marianne spent 80 days on Instagram in
88,
88.
I
Oh,
think. Was it 83 or 88? It was some interminable number
there she was, and
last
there
year.
she is again. But really good content, and clearly she can inspire us to not do that, but maybe something a little less ambitious, and really enjoy our winter gardens.
Yes, I'm hoping so. And if you are not a member of the American Horticultural Society, first off, what? Really? You're an American gardener. Shame on you. Shame, shame on you. Two, it's not expensive. Three, you get a magazine 6 times a
That
year.
you contribute to
Four,
sometimes.
that I contribute to. And I know it sounds like I'm being paid. I am not. I think that you should, well, I am. I'm being paid for my
I hope
articles, but
so.
I'm not being paid to do this little ad right now. I just feel that the British value the RHS and Americans don't understand that we have that here. We just need to value it more, and that's the AHS. And the best way you can do that is to be a member of them. And it's coast to coast. The magazine is fantastic and it has a reciprocal admissions program. So there are mini gardens on that you can walk into free of charge. So there's your admission right there very, very quickly, depending on where the garden is and how much they charge, which is getting to be more and more these days. It's a terrific magazine. This month, the November-December issue, I have an article on the winter garden reconsidered, which is more about what I was doing last year in the Instagram Why Winter Garden Challenge. And it's talking about the layering effect of a winter garden and how to build one. I'm not telling you a bunch of, what's the word? Is it pablum? Is that what I'm looking
Yeah, I think
for?
that's a good word. Peplum.
Yeah, but just old, oh, you should see it as beautiful. You should love it. I'm saying that yes, it's pretty sucky at the beginning when you start putting a winter garden together. It's cold. Your little tete-a-tete daffodils look pathetic.
You only bought 12 of them.
But that's right. That's a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
episode. But as you build it, as you build these layers and you move out from the fall garden and out from the spring garden and they start to meet in the middle, it is really exciting. It is an exciting thing to see that structure in your garden. And you are lucky, Leslie, you had to do none of that work because the person before you put in a lot. And now you get to just embellish
Yeah.
with your hellebores and your early bulbs because you've got a lot of beautiful winter structure there. So for those of you going, I don't get it. I don't need to winter garden and whatever. Uh, just know that it's a patience building exercise and it is worthwhile. And if you're in a climate that is colder than mine and has a lot more snow than mine, then you're creating structure for that snow to hang on. And that's sort of fun too.
Yeah.
And don't forget about that. If you're in a climate warmer than mine, what the hell are you not winter gardening for?
So this was the episode where we weren't going to talk about winter gardening. Uh,
Okay, sorry. I just had to say, go become a member of the AHS, and then you can get the magazine, and they will send that to you forthwith. And then you know for actually, and it's a great gift to give a gardener in your life in
Yeah,
December if you really could not figure out what to give your mother this year, and she's a gardener, and it's the 19th right now, so what are you waiting
yeah, let's
for?
go.
And oh, you're going to be a bad daughter or son.
TikTok.
Do we have any male listeners? Are there any male
You're
listeners?
on a need to know basis.
Okay. What are we talking about next
All right.
time?
So next time I think, oh, wait, let's talk about the winter garden. We're going to talk about that. And I think we're also going to talk about, oh, all of you got gardening books for Christmas. Let's talk about our favorite gardening books. And I will pretend like I have read them, and Marianne will tell us more about them. I've read several gardening books, I must say. So we have a book moment. Kind of dry, kind of dry.
It is a little dry for a lot of
Mm,
people, but there are some great books out there. And I think, you know what we could
what?
do? We could talk about some books that are worthwhile, that are reachable, that you grab for in your reference library before you grab
The
your
phone,
phone and
which is what I do.
Google.
All right. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful New Year. We'll see you in it.
2025.
5. Oh
Awesome.
my
We're
gosh, how
so
old are we
effing
getting?
old. Okay. Bye.
Bye.